Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hear Me Out, another sesh. Today, we're going to talk about advice and or advices. Um, you know, Kes, have you ever heard from anyone an advice that maybe at first you were like, I don't know, maybe it's sting a little bit, but then through time or even within that week or that same day, you realize, maybe they were right.
I'm gonna think about that one, but I know one that I don't think even with time, I really let it sit, but now I see the value in it.
Ooh, yeah.
Which, enjoy your singleness. That was definitely one that I heard a lot from my mom and my sisters. And I would even say, oftentimes at camps, in like services,
Okay.
conferences specifically targeted for young girls, young women. It was this recurring theme of, you should really enjoy your singleness and you should really wait for that time to come when you get into a relationship. And I never followed it. I can honestly say that I was always very, I don't want to use the word obsessed, if there's a better word for obsessed, but I was definitely very stubborn on, yes, I'm not in a rush, mom. Like I'm not, but internally I was never following it. I was always actively like expecting for that to happen for me,
Okay.
and I wouldn't say like, I was manipulative to try to make it happen for me per se, but if attraction came my way, I embraced it, and I think those are some of the things that I would have done differently. Even though I have come to agree with the phrase of, no regrets, because a lot of the times what you've experienced puts you in the position that you are and the person that you are. If I was with my daughter and she was asking me how she should handle this season, I would say the same thing. Because I think a lot of the times I wasted time in an attempt to try to secure a long-term relationship because that's what I wanted. And I wasted time there instead of working on myself to prepare myself for marriage.
Oh, I see.
So because of that, a lot of the things that I probably could have worked on while I was single, I had to work on it while I was married. And I don't think that like my marriage is crumbling or anything like that, but I think I would have been better off had I had dealt with certain things in that season. And not only that, but there were a lot of experiences that I feel like, again, my dream was I want a marriage with someone that loves the Lord and serves the Lord, and we're both, doing this together, and we're in ministry and blah, blah. So I would try to, find people that I could force that to happen. And it wasn't there, because they're not in that season. I'm not really in that season if you're really paying attention, because I'm just so focused on a relationship that, again, like I would become disappointed. And why didn't this work out for me? Why didn't this person love the Lord as much as I wanted them to love the Lord? Or why am I not spiritually where I want to be? But again, you're not giving yourself time to really reflect and grow and mature. And so that once it happened for me, I feel like a lot of things were like, okay, yeah, you're there, and you have to start to mature. And I remember like the week before I was getting married, there were a lot of fears, not in the person that I was marrying, not in him. That was always like, even the day we talked about this, were you nervous on your wedding day? No, I wasn't. I knew walking in, like, that is the man I'm going to marry. And that was secure. What I was insecure about was, am I going to be a good wife? Do I have what it takes to love someone past what I want and my needs and my comforts? can I really put that person first when it's not convenient for me?
Wow.
And because a lot of my life was very convenient, you know, and I don't say this proudly. I don't say this in a way to, wow, viví una vida privilegiada. No, but the truth of the matter is I did grow up very chiquiada, very, you know, taken care of. And a lot of things came easy to me. So when push came to shove and you're getting ready to get married, it's like, mom's not coming with you, you know, mom's not going to solve your problems for you or be there for you in that sense. So can you really be the woman of the house? And I'm going to do lo que tengo que hacer, and I'm going to take care of my home. I'm going to take care of my husband. I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. and make lunch. Wow. You know, can you really do that? And so I do think that, you know, now 2 years down the line, you know, like I have changed. I do think I have grown, and I can say this. I'm a woman now. I've grown up to be an adult. I've grown up to be someone that I can have confidence. I take care of my home. I take care of my husband. But again, in the spiritual sense, I can say that now, after 2 years, my spiritual life is really molding to where it should be, where I could say I have faith and I have a relationship with God and I cling to God and I seek his word, where I feel like I would have been better off had I had that 2 years even prior to me getting into a relationship. Because you mentioned this in a previous episode where because of where you were in your relationship with God, you put a lot of things on you. What's my capability? What's what my efforts will get me? In the same way, in a lot of aspects, I was like, well, what can I do to get the most out of what I want in this life? And it's not like that. It's right. Lord, how are you going to open doors for me? What doors are you going to close for me? You know, so that mindset, that shift, I think that had I spent a little bit more time just being patient and just, you know, Lord, when it's your time, you're going to bring this man. Because I will even say this, Joel was always there. You know, Joel was always that person that I think God had for me, but he wasn't ready. And I wasn't ready. Had I just sat there, I could have grown up with him and not needed to have anybody else in my story, you know, in my growing process, so that it could have really just been us. And I think that that would have made, you know, our love story even more powerful than what it is. But again, no regrets. But I think that's one of the things that I didn't really listen, per se. But now I see the value. And now I would tell my children, put more time and value in your relationship with God. Yes, keep your eyes open. Yes, you know, take mental notes. I see this person, you know, and I see their efforts and their growth. But just because someone has a crush on you and someone makes you feel a certain way, is that really benefiting you? Because sometimes I think that you're so focused in that relationship, especially when you're young, that you already start to mentally dream about them. Right. You know, I'm dreaming to be with them. Have expectations. And especially in the church, sometimes we have this, you know, habit of like your first boyfriend or your first girlfriend is a person you're going to marry. Doesn't always happen, you know, but when you grow up with that, you know, and you're ingrained in that, it's like the first person in church that I liked or that liked me, that's the person that, you know, I'm going to marry, and it has to be, you know, and we had this moment and blah, blah, blah. And I think those are some of the things that I think I would discourage, you know, so that they could really grow. But that's the first one right now that I'm thinking that it's like for sure I didn't listen to, that now I see the value. But something that hurt, I'll have to think about that. But what about you?
For me, I keep hearing that. But for me, it's the opposite. For me, it's kind of like I've been single way too long. But I think for me, it was in a different light. I think for me, it was more like marriage is hard. Enjoy your singleness, kind of that message. Yeah. It wasn't really enjoy your time with God. I think from my mom now it is a lot about that. A lot of like focus on your relationship with God.
Right.
But prior to that, it was a lot of like, marriage is difficult. Enjoy your singleness. It came from almost bitterness out of marriage, you know. So I was like,
Like, you're lucky, honey.
exactly, you know. So I'm like, but I mean, I've been blessed with singleness for a while. So, but you're right. I do see the value of working in yourself with the help of God prior to marriage. I do see. I mean, if you have the opportunity, why not do it? You know? If things just pan out and you manage to marry, and
you're gonna have to go through it regardless.
Yeah, and then you realize, there are things I haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
So, but your husband's there to help you with that as well.
Right.
So I think,
which I will say this, you know, I saw a meme the other day, and I know I'm only 2 years married. Those that are like, oh, you don't know me, it's going to get harder when you have kids. Yes, I believe that. But I think the only reason why marriage is hard is because if you think that you're going to go in there being the same person that you were when you started, and you're going to come out of that without having to change or compromise or put someone else's needs before yours, yes, it's hard. Because that aspect isn't easy. But the more that you realize that marriage is there to shape you, it works to work on your tone. It works for you to change, you know, what you would probably do had you been by yourself and now you're with someone else. And okay, I have to think about that person. Like, all of that takes work because it's molding you. But if you see it as, I'm becoming better because of it, this person is shaping me to be more considerate, more compassionate, more loving, more like Christ, I mean, then, you know, that's, I don't know, that's just how I see it. Because I've heard that as well. I've heard the, like, again, I got married young, and I got a lot of the comments of like, but why? Why do you want to get married? Because there's this negative connotation on marriage that it ties you down, and you're hooked to someone, and, you know, you're bound to them, and you have no freedom. And it's like, that's not how I see it. I see it as, yes, I am linked to this person, but this person is making me be the best version of Kez that I have ever been. So why is that bad for society? Why is that bad to my family and my friends? You know, of course, in instances where you're probably not being the best person, I can understand why people are like, no, para que me quiero casar. But you would hope that you marry the right person and they bring the best out of you.
Yeah, definitely I would agree with, we have this idea that love is accepting that person for who they are, and I agree. Yes, I agree, but a lot of the times it's a lot of selfless work.
Yeah.
And and I think with selfless work, it becomes, how can I be better for this person? How can I give and not just take? And I think at some point, I'm pretty sure it becomes a lot about giving. Yeah, you might have expectations and you would like something back in return, but if you're really putting in the work, if you're really, really putting in the work, llega a ser selfless, I would say. So, and I don't think society preaches selfless love anymore. No. I think they're preaching, what can you give me? It's like 50-50, that mentality.
Yeah.
And I don't agree. I think it's 100. And I'm compromising to give my 100. And yes, my expectation is that you will give your 100. But I am also conscious that there are times where I'll probably give 110 and you'll give 80. And I'm okay with that. And there are times, because there will be times where I'll give 80, 70, 50. And you'll be there to match me with 140 or whatever.
Right.
You know, so, but, you know, what do I know? So that's
advice that you've received.
My mom is known to always say this, and there are times where I understand it, but there are times where it still stings. So my mom is a very objective person. She tries to not have a subjective perspective on things or on people or situations. She always tries to be like, okay, let's see things from the outside. Let's see things from other angles.
Yeah.
And my mom has never been one to like, ay, mija, you know, like, oh, I think she's the opposite. Um, she's very much about, like, for example, if we were kids and you were to tell her, hey, mami, este niño me pegó, whatever, she wouldn't be like, ay, mi amor, ¿qué pasó? Vamos a decirle al niño. No, my mom would be like, ¿y tú qué hiciste? You know, so that's the type of mom I have.
Yeah.
So there are times where I would tell her something y se quedaba así pensando y me decía, bueno, todo depende de cómo veas las cosas. Oh my God. That, like, when I was young, obviously, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear, ay, mija, you're right. You know, you're right. You're right in hating
Your
that
perspective
person.
is
You know,
valid.
Your perspective is valid, blah, 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 blah. And then you would think, okay, you know, as you mature, maybe you'll start understanding. No, like there are times where it's really difficult. There are times where I'm telling her, hey, I'm having this hard time, you know, like I don't know how to handle it, blah, 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 blah. I think this way.
Yeah.
Y yo le digo, no, ay, pues yo pienso que es así, 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 así. Y entonces she'll stay quiet for a little bit y le dice, bueno, todo está en cómo veas las cosas. Y yo, okay, but that doesn't help me. Like, what do you mean by that? I know what she means by that. By that, she means change your perspective.
Yeah.
See things differently. See things on their end.
Mm-hmm.
See things how they see it. That's one that there are days where I'll take it and there are days where I'm like, really? Like, I know what you're trying to do, but can you just give me like my way? Like, can you just say, I agree with you? Like, you are right. You are absolutely right. No, I don't think. Obviously, I think when it comes to certain issues or certain situations, yeah, she'll say, yeah, I think so. Yeah. But when it comes to like, I'm having a hard time because I'm creating an opinion about a situation or about a person, and I'm not matched with, that is true. I think so too. No, I'm met with, I mean, well, you can see it this way too. You can see it that way too. So that's one that I'm like, really? Like, really? And the other one is, again, which is, I think is very correlated to, it all depends how you see it. Mm-hmm. And it also comes from my mom, is, you no vas a educar a todos. No es tu trabajo educar a todo mundo. And that one pisses me off a lot more than it all depends how you see it. It pisses me off because to me, it's almost like, I know I'm right. You know, I know this person, the way he or she is behaving is not right. Why do they do this? Why do they behave this way? And all I hear from my mom is, well, your job is not to educate them. It's like, can you just tell me, sí, cierto, ¿por qué se comportan de esa forma? Ay, no, todos tenemos que tener el amor de Cristo. You know, no. It's like, okay, yeah, I see, I understand where you're coming from. Y así es la gente. That's my mom. That's people. Mm-hmm. That's people. And you're not going to educate each and every individual. Sorry, that's not how life works. Y luego me dice, and then she hits me with, you can only do you. You can only work on you. And I'm like, yes, mom, yes. And so those two, I think you're not going to educate people, that one stings a lot more than it all depends how you see it. Because I feel like I've become more of like, okay, let's see another perspective. Let's give the benefit of the doubt. Let's be objective as much as I can. And I feel like I'm not mastering it, but I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But the educate people, este sí todavía me cuesta.
Like, cuesta. I need to. I still can.
Yeah, porque, I mean, I've said it before in previous podcasts. I have a hard time thinking that if I do it, why can't you do it?
Yeah.
You know, if I'm
at this age and this stage in my life and I can manage to be courteous or respectful, or I know enough to not say this, or I know enough to say that, or, you know,
yeah,
cuanto más tú,
that you're older and much wiser and you've been in Christ for so many years, like that to me is where I have a very hard time understanding. Y luego, you know, and so when I hit my mom with that, I'm pretty sure she does it to protect my heart.
Right.
I'm pretty sure she does it instead of giving her, hey, you're right. I'm pretty sure she's like, could be that you're right. Pero así es la vida. Mm-hmm. Y no hay de otra. Y tú no te puedes quedar ahí sentada con todo este
Boiling.
coraje,
Yeah.
ajá, con todo este de que "And she did this or he did this and it's so frustrating, blah, 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 blah." Porque they move on with their lives. Perhaps they didn't even realize what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And you're over here thinking, how obnoxious of this person or how this or that, you know? And so I feel like I try to give more leeway. I try to be more like, okay, that is true. I won't educate people. Like
Right.
I don't gain anything if I do try anyway, you know?
Right.
I'm only gonna come off as someone that is inflexible, that is disrespectful even, and I don't want that too. I don't want that either. So mejor digo, you know what? Sí, cierto. Y ya. Y como que digo, let it go. Let it go. And it's been working. The good thing about God,
Little by little.
little by little, the good thing about God is that, you know, because this whole year, my prayer has been, give me patience. God, give me patience. And obviously, He's not going to just give me patience. He's going to give me opportunities.
People.
Yeah, to exercise patience, you know? So I think because of that, I'm trying to digest it better every time. And I think
It's a good thing I'm younger, right, guys? Kes is older than me, and no, I'm just kidding. No, it's because I'm married. It's still that.
no,
I'm just saying, like, no, but it's true. Like, I agree with the frustration, you know? I mean, I think that titles and professionality and age are main things. And especially, I would even say, where maybe you've seen someone show a level of arrogance or some sort of like, no, yo sí sé, or yo sí puedo, or do you know who I am?
Mm-hmm.
And then especially when you see them behave inconsiderately, disrespectfully, and you're like, but you're over here, you know, showing me, you know, that you are this great person. Like, how do you not know that what you said and how you said it or how you behaved is wrong? You know, and so, yeah, I think it's the unfortunate reality of our lives, you know, that we're always gonna, you know, be around people like that. It's funny that, you know, as I'm hearing you say, like, what's that piece of advice? What I'm hearing more is that tends to aggravate you in a sense sometimes when you hear it. I can't really think right now about my mom, some of the advices, but I think of Joel. And I think of some of the things that he said to me. And similarly, my husband is more like, if you're not going to take the time to communicate to this person that they are making you feel this way in some way, why are you letting it bother you to the point that you're bringing it home?
Mm-hmm.
And that's frustrating to me sometimes because it's like, okay, well, I work in a field where I can't communicate everything I feel, you know, and not just where I work, in general, in life, you know, you don't always have the opportunity to voice to someone you're behaving very disrespectfully.
Right.
You're being very inconsiderate about, you know, what I worked on or what I've been doing or how I've been helping you, you know, etc. And then not only that, but it's like if I'm sitting here and I just tell everybody how they make me feel, everyone's like, oh my God, like every little thing that we do is going to affect her. So I come home and I vent and I say, but I do see where he comes from, because Joel is the kind of person that if it really bothers him, he's going to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's really going to bring it up and he's going to say, you know, this happened and I need to work through it and we need to talk about it and this is how I felt and blah, blah, blah. Whereas for me, you know, even if it's maybe not that big of a deal, like it's a little bit of a frustration or something, I vent about it, I talk about it, I share it, you know, and especially if it's a consistent thing with someone, you know, maybe a sibling, maybe a whatever. And for him, it's like, okay, you know, then go tell the person that they need to work on it so you guys can have a better relationship and you guys can work on it. And it's like, no, like, I can't, you know? But I know for him and his mindset, it's like, then it should not affect you this much. Because in our marriage, obviously, it's like we value communication. We value if this is really important to you, then you need to voice it. You need to tell me so that I could work on it. If you're not going to take those means with someone, then it's really not that important.
Right.
It's not important enough for you to take it home, for you to boil, for you to just harbor it, because then that person is really not that important enough for you to want to work on it. And that's one that when I'm not met with that validation right away, it does come off like, why do I even say anything? And it's just like, no, like, I'm not trying to not listen to you. It's just that if you really narrow it down, it's not something that you really care about. It's not something that really, this person really matters enough to you. And that's what I'm trying to make you see, And so I would say that that's the aggravating advice that is actually valuable, that you're like, okay, I do see it, Do you have another one?
I think like 2 years ago, Pastor sat me down to talk about, we talked about so many things, but that day we were talking about dating, and he told me, you need to make a list. You need to make a list of the ideal person you want, with everything, all the details, height, color skin, color eyes, whatever it is that your preference is. If you want them to love God, if you want them to be Christian, like all of that. And then out of that list, he says, then out of that list, long list, you need to take the ones that you are not going to compromise. You need to take the ones that you are like, okay, I can compromise on the height, maybe. I can compromise on the colored eyes. I can compromise on whatever, but I cannot compromise on whether he loves the Lord or not. That's something that needs to be set.
Yeah.
I cannot compromise on if he's respectful or not. I cannot compromise si es trabajador y todo eso, ¿no? Entonces, and then, we're talking about it. And he's telling me, you need to make the list, blah, blah, blah. And so we're talking about it. And at the end of the conversation, he says something like, because remember, you attract what you are, right? And so he didn't say this, but with that I took, okay. So if I attract what I am and I want this, then I need to become this. I put 2 and 2 together, Pastor. But I'm pretty sure he said it for me to later maybe find out, if I want this, I need to become that. So I think that was an advice that at first I thought, I didn't think much of it, if I'm being honest. Like, I did think, oh wow, this is good. Yes, I'm gonna do it. And I actually did go home and I actually did my list and everything. But I feel like where I really thought, okay, this isn't just about making a list, is when I really thought I need to become that list.
Yeah.
I need to become fearful of God. I need to become trabajadora, responsable, respetuosa. Todas las cosas que yo dije, okay, esto no lo voy a cambiar. Esto no va a ser, it's a deal breaker for me. And it was funny because he also said, when you have the list, when you start making the list and you start making the difference between what you're not going to compromise and what you are going to compromise, or what you're willing rather to compromise, you'll start noticing that once you have the list that, okay, I'm set on that, y eso is done, lo demás doesn't hold value.
Yeah.
Lo demás doesn't matter. And even within myself, because I feel like a lot of the times, for example, we make a list and we're thinking, oh my God, uno altote, guapo, blah, 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 con dinero y todo eso. But if you're really going to attract what you are, then, pues yo no tengo dinero. Yo no soy Miss Universo. Yo no soy, And so I started thinking, why do I have certain expectations when I'm not that? Like, I cannot ask what I don't have.
Right.
I cannot, it makes no sense. Mm-hmm. So it started to make sense of, oh, okay, the list isn't just a list of like, yes, God, give me this. No, the list is, God, help me become this so I can get this.
Yeah.
So you can provide this. And so I think it's, I'm talking 2 years ago, and I'm still doing the work.
Yeah.
I'm still doing the work, and I'm still working on myself. But I think that was a really good advice. I think.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't think I had heard a conversation like that. Not even from my mom, if I'm being honest. I think my mom, it was always like, God will provide. God will provide. And yes, I had heard, be specific as to what you want. But I don't think anyone had really flipped it on me on like, but you also need to be that. Mm-hmm. This isn't just about asking. This is about becoming.
Right.
So you can, maybe ask. So that was one that I thought, with time, I realized what he meant.
Yeah.
At first, it's just like, it makes sense to make a list, to be specific, to have like a goal in mind almost. But through time, I realized, it wasn't just, it's not the list.
Yeah.
It's becoming the list. And I feel like I carried that with all my relationships. Like if I want a friend, I need to become that type of friend. If I want a certain type of relationship with my sisters, I need to become that type of sister. If I want a relationship with my mom, I need to become that type of daughter that I want, that relationship with my mom. So it wasn't just a husband.
Right.
It was
in every aspect, every relationship.
Yeah. Like even with God, what a relationship do I want with God? And I need to become that, and like, I think long time ago, we were talking about, I want to be the fruits of the Spirit. I want to show, porque en la Biblia dice, por sus frutos se le conocerán, right? And I want to be that. And so, pero no va a ser de la noche a la mañana.
Yeah.
I need to work. I need to put in the work. So I think it trickled down to other areas. And yes, I'm still working, and I'm still doing the work in all of those areas. But had it not been for that conversation, maybe I would have taken more time to figure that out. Mm-hmm. So thank you, Pastor.
Yeah, Pastor sometimes like spots and like just stops, and he's just like, here's like, he doesn't say it specifically, but he has this joke sometimes where he's like, that one's for free. That one's for free. I think one of the best advice that I have applied that has benefited my marriage was every door that you open for yourself, you open for him, and vice versa. So, I got this from my sister, and she was saying, for example, if you start to speak badly of his family, he has every right to speak badly of yours.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
If you open the door to, I don't want to spend, time with your family. I don't want to be going over there. I don't want to, whatever. He has every right to say the same, and to say, I don't want to go to your mom's. I don't want to spend time with your sisters. And, she used those two examples, but I have used that in everything, in everything from, again, this is, an adult channel, but even in things of like the moment that you, say no, and I'll leave it there, you open the door for him to say no, and in affection and relationship and conversations, but also in the negative, like, I'm not going to have consideration for your feelings and for, for how you felt about this. Again, he has the opportunity to do that to you, and you can't get upset that he spoke to you in that way, because you've spoken to him worse, and that to me has been probably the number one best piece of advice that I have ever received that has blessed my marriage, because I do think that because of it, I do have a great relationship with him, and we both are always, because he knows this, he knows I've shared this with him, and so we're both constantly looking out for, how can I make my partner the most fulfilled, the most at peace, the most understood, because intrinsically I want that as well. And so there are times, we are with my family, and he is just very like, I know you're happy, I know you're in your element, I know that this is what matters. And then we go with his family, and I'm like, I'm really happy because I know that you're really happy. And it's like, no necesariamente you do it to get something in return per se, but it's so that you and I can both have great experiences in our marriage. It's so that you and I can treat each other with that consideration. And so, like, and just little things, like, I'm thinking like sometimes how, I come home and randomly, like, he just chooses a day where he's just like, I washed all the dishes and I put everything away. And it was something that I was already thinking of, like, oh, when I get home, I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to wash the dishes and stuff like that. And he'll do something like that. And then that sticks with me. And so then the next day is like, babe, like I, made, your favorite, Philly cheesesteak, because that me nace, like, it's just like, wow, and then he's just like, well, so it's a constant of like, I'm going to give to you,
it's to pay back.
It's not to pay back. It's just you leave the person with a sense of joy, that they just want to reciprocate that. And I think that's why we've had a great relationship, because there's always that. And then the second for my marriage, which I've received from my mom, I've received from my sister, I've received from pastor, all in different times, is always speak in a way about your husband that you would want others to think of him and see him. For example, do I know how the imperfections my husband is? Yes. I know what areas he has to work on. Would I ever want my best friend to say, oh, I think your husband's this? No, I wouldn't. And it's not that you lie to people something that your husband isn't, but you bring to light the areas that he really is and that he really shines, because you want others to see him the way that he is. So I will take time to mention Joel is hardworking. Joel is extremely, extremely hardworking, and him getting up in the morning and just the things that I'll take a moment to talk about him. And speaking well of him will also have other people, wow, this is how he is. And that makes me feel good. In the same way he does that, oh, my wife is like this. And at the same time, it also cuts off the possibility of me ever speaking negatively about him, or me, us having an issue and we're going to do it in public, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to fight in front of people, or we're going to say things to each other in front of people. Because to me, it's like, if I wouldn't want my best friend or my mom or my pastor to ever speak in that way about my husband, then I'm never going to belittle him or demean him in front of anyone. I'm like, any issue that we have, we're going to solve it in private, in the privacy of our home. We're going to talk it out. We're going to solve it there. Because again, the moment that you open that door, then you also open that door to others. There's this aspect of in the marriage where it's like, if I open a door for you, you open a door for me, but you also open a door for other people. When you start to put your stuff out there and you start to have, situations like that, because now everybody has an opinion. Now everybody has a say in who your spouse is or how they are. Y ellos se quedan con eso, Yeah. Which, as I'm saying this, in the same way that, my sister has always said, don't ever speak badly about his family, because you're not going to like it if he ever speaks badly of your family, right? In the same way, don't ever speak badly about your husband to your family, because your family is going to side with you. Your family is going to feel with you. And so the moment you're like, oh, me hizo esto, me dijo esto, me dijo... Again, people not in situations of abuse, not the extremes, right? But just, he said this to me, or, he acted this way, or blah, blah, blah. Your siblings, your family members, your friends are going to be like, oh my gosh, like, how could you live with that? How could you put up with that? Like, I wouldn't. But then you go back to your marriage and like, I love my husband and I don't ever want to leave with my husband because he's the man that I want to be with. But your group is left with like,
I would have left.
I don't know how she stands him. He's this, he's that. And then when you're happy with your husband and you're at a family dinner or something, and then that comes back at you, te vas a quedar, why? You open that door. And so opening doors And the way you speak about your spouse or what you say to other people and being discreet in certain aspects about your marriage and stuff like that, all of that, I would say, has been the best advice I have ever received regarding my marriage and that stage.
Yeah. And I think going back to that of like people will formulate their opinions about that person based off how you refer to that person. Um, I 100% agree with that of like lo privado tiene que ser en privado.
Right.
Y y si sale en público lo guardamos para lo privado porque it's very uncomfortable for the people around.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable. And then okay, you can try as hard as you want to not make to not formulate an opinion about such and such, but you still do. You still do, and it's hard to see that person the same way.
Yeah.
Or the couple. Not just one person, but both the same way. And so I do agree with you that even out of consideration for the others, not just for your husband, which should be your primary concern, but consideration for others.
Yeah.
You know, like
I'm not gonna put you in a position where you have to choose also. You know?
or where you're just there taking everything, and now it's my job to not judge. Now it's my job to not formulate any opinion. Now it's my job to carry on with my life despite that, you know, outburst or whatever. And it's hard. And it's very difficult. And I think it takes a very objective person, disciplined person even, to be like, hey, así es la vida, así es el matrimonio, and move on with their life.
Todo tiene que ver con cómo lo ves.
Ajá, tú tienes que ver cómo lo ves. Y entonces I think I feel like at times when that happens, you give a window to people to see into your marriage.
Oh, 100%.
And that's not all. That's not everything in your marriage.
Exactly.
But now people think, oh, they have problems. Oh, they have this. Or the bottom line of it is they don't have enough wisdom to, me molestó, but I'm not going to make a big deal. And I'm going to speak about it when, one, I'm more calmed.
Right.
And two, when it's really just us two and I can really be honest.
But that also exercises your self-control. You
Right.
know, when you can manage to, you know, be in a situation where, yes, you say something, your spouse says something, and you probably both hurt each other in public, and to hold it and to say, I'm going to wait until we are not in this place and have a conversation after, that exercises your patience. It exercises your control. And therefore, you are becoming a more controlled person.
Yeah.
Because now, exactly how you said it, you bring the intensity of how you feel down. And now you can be practical. Now you can really say, I did not appreciate this. And even possibly at that point, give someone the benefit of the doubt. I know you didn't do it intentionally.
Right.
But it still made me feel this way. And I would appreciate it if next time you could avoid talking about this. Now the person isn't like, you know, defensive, you know, it's like,
Yeah, there you go.
it's like, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Yes, of course. And you can go about your day, you know, perfectly fine, as opposed to in that moment, why'd you say that? You know? And now everyone's like, wait, what just happened? You know? Entonces, you know, in that, on the flip side, there's three now that I realize. The third one is not every marriage is perfect. And especially with social media, what you see in people, you know, how smiling they are, how everything, that does not mean that marriage is perfect. And so if you're trying to compare or align your marriage to one, you know, and I'm not saying that you can have role models. I'm just saying no marriage is perfect. Like, you cannot say, oh my God, my marriage is horrible because so-and-so, look at how they are. Look at how they love each other. Look at what they post. It's like, dude, you're not in that marriage. You don't know what it really is like. You don't know what goes on in the privacy of their own home, how they speak to each other, how they refer to each other. You have no idea. And so that in itself should push you to be like, this is mine. I'm going to protect it. And it's going to be what it's going to be, but it can't be based off of someone else's marriage.
It's like that one I heard it recently. Well, there's this saying, right, that grass always looks greener on the other side. But then I feel like people have been adding to it, and the one I like the most is, yeah, it looks greener when you haven't watered yours. So I thought, ooh,
That's good.
makes sense. Like I feel like people a lot of the times focus on everyone else's story or everyone else's marriage or life or whatever, and you compare your life. But if you're not putting in the work in your life, in your marriage, in your friendships, in your relationship with God, it makes sense for you to be like, yeah, that looks greener, that is better, whatever. But we don't realize that perhaps it's greener because they are putting in the work, they are watering it, they are putting fertilizer, they are keeping it up.
Right.
Versus you are not. You just expect that one day to wake up and for your grass to look as green, and it doesn't work that way. But that was one. And then another one that my mom tells me, and lately I've been really living with it, is no todo es duradero. Y eso es bíblico también.
Yes, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
Yes.
Eso es bíblico también. Y a couple of months ago, when I was going through something tough, she would remind me of that a lot. I was like, esto no va a durar. Se siente que te duele y se siente que te vas a morir,
Yes.
pero créeme, no va a durar. Y luego también, in retrospect, también los happy moments no van a durar. So, Eclesiastes lo dice, todo es vanidad, todo va a pasar, todo, los momentos bonitos van a pasar, los momentos feos también van a pasar. So I think it's God's promise of like, enjoy the good moments and live with them and, treasure them. But my promise is que even the hard times también no van a durar.
Es como dijo el hermano ayer, el misionero que estaba diciendo, es por esa razón nosotros tenemos que disfrutar el tiempo con nuestros hijos. No tenemos hijos, obviamente, pero es verdad, cuando él lo puso y lo dijo, ¿qué hacemos cuando nosotros ya llegamos a un punto donde nos fastidian nuestros hijos? Les damos el teléfono, you know? ¿Y por qué? Porque es más conveniente para mí no tener que pasar tiempo con ellos o darles la atención, lo que ellos los que quieren or whatever. It's like it's easier for you to get the phone and get distracted and yeah. Because I want to enjoy more time in my silence, in my moment, in my memes. And the child will get distracted. The child will go ahead and do whatever it is that you're putting in front of them. But that moment's going to be gone, and they're going to grow up. And of course, I don't have children. I don't know what kind of parent I'm going to be. You're going to watch me, a year from now, like, ay, mira, la hermana dijo que nunca le iba a dar su teléfono. But I do see the point. The point is, like, oftentimes, we're so focused on maybe what we're striving to get or whatever it is that we're doing that we don't stop to enjoy what's in front of us. And it's true, and that this too shall pass. I'm thankful that in the negative, at least, it really does. It does not last forever.
Yeah.
And it's something that you can bear. It is something that you can go through, even when it seems like it's taking forever. For sure.
Oh, yeah. So I think, and unfortunately, it always takes situations to make you realize, yeah, that is true. So, but hey, let's even be grateful for the situations that teaches us this too shall pass. And it did.
It did.
And it did. And even now, how I'm feeling, as happy as I am, as blessed as I feel, as, as thankful as I am for life, this too will also pass when another situation arrives and I have to put up with that situation. And I have to also remind in that situation, I have to remind myself, this too shall pass. So I think the older I get, the more I realize nada es duradero. Nada va a durar. Y como nada va a durar, enjoy the good moments, learn from the bad moments, and move on.
Yeah.
So that was. But
it's a constant thing we have to apply.
Right.
It's in all of what we're talking about. Like, it's not something that you're going to excel at your entire life.
No.
When it comes to opening and closing doors, for example, in my marriage, have I always excelled in that area? No, I haven't. you know, but it's the one long lasting advice that I see value and benefit and blessing, that I realize I need to continuously apply this in my life. In the same way with this too shall pass, you have to continuously remind yourself, you know, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to enjoy what's in front of you. But in all of this, you know, this episode was to shine light on, you know, some of the things that we've heard growing up or we're still trying to apply, because there are people in our lives that are trying to deposit something of benefit for us to grow, and sometimes we just don't listen.
Yeah.
And we don't always apply it. And so, you know, please share your guys' advice and share your guys', you know, maybe there's something that, you know, you guys have been told from your parents that you guys can share with us, and maybe we can also apply it as well.
Oh yeah, please let us know in the comment section what advices sting a little bit, but through time maybe it made sense.
It made sense.
Or even advices that you're going through now, you know, that you're like, hey, I heard this from so and so, and I'm applying it as we speak. So thank you so much for today, for this episode. We hope it was of blessing and some, you know, insight as to what we live with, you know, or rather what we live by.
With,
yeah. So bye. God
Have
bless.
a good one.